in the anatomy of a computer program, there are three parts. There's the input that the user has to put in, and then there's the processing of that input via whatever algorithm is in place, and then the program hopefully produces some kind of output. So when life here gets overwhelming or messy, which is pretty much always, sometimes I like to frame things in relation to these three steps. For instance, I'm on the train and someone says hi to me, that would be the input. And then I process it via my own algorithm, which is somewhat Dr. Seuss machine-esque, and I think, okay, well, I haven't seen this person in a long time, but I'm getting off at the next stop, so any conversation I start is going to be kind of meaningless, but how do I convey to her that I actually do care about what she's been doing? Maybe I should suggest coffee, but that'll sound like an empty promise, which it probably is, because I'm a huge flake, because I can't keep, that's why we haven't talked to each other in so long, because I've let this friendship die, because I can't commit to anything. That's why I'm wasting the best years of my life in this dead-end job, and I can't. And now I have to say something because it's just, I'm having an existential crisis on the L train. Like I have to, so that's the algorithm. And then I produce the output, which is, oh, hey. So perhaps this does not demonstrate my ability as a computer programmer, but I am apt when I program in Java because I took a lot of computer science classes as a high school. I went to computer programming competitions, and I just loved the irrefutable logic of code in what is otherwise like this anarchist, acid trip, completely abstract thing of high school. So it should come as no surprise that my first and only relationship in high school was with a computer science boy, and it went exactly as you would imagine. We only communicated in binary, and we would hold hands, but while we were petting my dog, so we would just kind of submerge in the fur and then touch hands and then freeze. And the kissing function we had not debugged yet, so we didn't do a lot of that. And the input was me looking at him, and the output was furious blushing. And I just remember being floored that someone liked me, and so that translated into this kind of enormous, overwhelming foreign data that I couldn't really process. And so when we split up because we went to different colleges, I was not devastated because I just remember trying to figure out this algorithm for how I was going to process, like, how did this mystery, this data, like, how did he like me, and what, the funny thing about computers is that they don't need to be loved, and the funny thing about people who relate to computers is that you start to subscribe to the same view. And so I carried that unprocessed data all through college, accepted no new input, thank you very much, and then that leads us to what I like to call the syntax error incident of 2012, where I was at my cousin's wedding, and I was enjoying the anonymity that comes with being a guest at a wedding, because nobody really cares what you say at a wedding. They ask questions, blah, 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 what do you do, who are you, immediately forget what they're saying. So I'm pretending to be wildly successful when they ask what I'm doing in New York City, the Big Apple, and I'm not saying that I'm wearing a hand-me-down dress from my mom's friend, and I'm definitely not saying that my shoes are from a literal thrift store. And then I meet this guy, and in his introduction, he's a friend of the bride. He says that he's a Java developer who works at an online investment company. That was the input. And no matter how many times you run yourself through test cases, you're going to come upon situations where you produce a wildly unexpected outcome. Errors is what we call those. And an outcome that makes you immediately quit the run of the program, and you go through your personality line by line, and you figure out, where in the sandhill did this happen? And so he gave me the input, and without missing a beat, where did this algorithm come from? I responded with my output, and I said, realizing this handsome stranger was also a computer programmer, I said, system.out.println, parentheses, quote, hey, end quote, and parentheses, semicolon. And which I spoke to him a line of code that would literally print the word hey, and then I entered an infinite loop of regret. So I exited the conversation swiftly, and I turned around and I walked away, and I thought to myself, okay, well that occurred, but when you kind of have an experience where you are so yourself like that, you have to stop feeding yourself that bullshit input that's like, my algorithm needs to be changed in order to be lovable, and you start to feed yourself this thing that's like, okay, well, I'm the kind of girl who opens flirtatious interactions with a line of code, and possibly that's lovable. And I don't even want to tell the end of the story because the point has already been made that everyone has a lovable algorithm. But incidentally, this boy is now my fiance, and we're writing this error-filled, short-circuiting program line by line, but we're debugging it Thank you.